Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we're speaking about the receipts. The receipts as in proof, evidence that lead to nefarious things that are problematic in our day-to-day lives. And one of those things that happen to be problematic that is not going away but is increasing in frequency are mass shooters. There has been an increasing push by an unseen hand to rid Americans of their gun rights. People don't understand that once you take away people's gun rights, then nothing else is really left because people really don't have the legal footing to stand on and protect themselves. Look at the Canadians. Their constitution is being rewritten right in front of their eyes, and they're being passive and docile, not really doing anything about it. And how they even right before that constitution was rewritten with the trucker convoy and anybody who was involved in the trucker convoy, politicians, in their absolute arrogance, saw fit to freeze the bank accounts of anybody who participated in a trucker convoy protest. So I want to start with the most recent of these mass shooters, and actually happened today, most recently on April the 10th, 2023. Connor Sturgeon, a former employee of Old National Bank, walked into the bank, shot and killed 4 people, and injured 6 others. He had a grievance with the bank because he had just been fired from the bank. Now, everybody describes him as a quiet, mild-mannered guy, and he somehow just snapped when he lost his job. Now, people often get angry with their employer, and contemplate beating that ass. And some people even go as far as thinking about killing those people. Very few even act on it. But I don't know. You see, because narratives can be crafted. They can be crafted to appear one way when something else is happening. Who's to say that this guy was not just robbing a bank? That this guy was not just robbing a bank because he feels the bank had taken from him the time that he had invested into working for these people and chose to discard him and throw him away. So therefore, he chose to lash out, which is what the media wants you to think. Or perhaps he was just going for the loot and he was going on a mad dash to the border somewhere to escape with his ill-gotten gains. So this story is still new. But when these stories break, that's when you actually get the facts before they get massaged and changed into something else. Because if you look at the story of Audrey Elizabeth Hale, a 28-year-old woman, she was born a woman. She went into Covenant Private Christian Elementary School in Nashville, Tennessee on March 27, 2023, last week, or a week and a half ago, shot and killed 3 children and 3 adults. So that woman was in the slow process of transitioning her gender from female to male. And she was on medication as well. So I want to talk about an area of these transitions that people do not discuss. And there are often people who do not take all of the medication prescribed to them for hormones or for behavioral side effects. So treatment for gender dysphoria aims to help people live the way they want to in their preferred gender identity or as non-binary. Now, in the male to female transition, feminizing hormone therapy includes estrogen to promote feminine characteristics and anti-androgens to block the production of effects of testosterone. The goal of therapy is to attain a more feminine appearance, including breasts, softer skin, and rounder and wider hips. In the female to male transition, which is what Audrey Elizabeth Hale was in the process of, masculinizing hormone therapy uses testosterone to achieve more masculine characteristics. These include a deeper voice, a more muscular appearance, and more facial and body hair. It also stops menstrual cycles. Now, another option is gender fluid. In this practice, hormone therapy may also be taken in small doses by individuals who don't identify as either male or female. They're undecided. It can result in a more androgynous or more feminine appearance that is somewhere between both genders. Medical supervision is needed. It is important to work with a gender care specialist if you are interested in this therapy because it can cause weight gain, acne, mood changes, and increased risks of serious medical conditions such as heart disease, blood clots, and diabetes. Hormone therapy can be a lifelong commitment. I'll say that again. Hormone therapy can be a lifelong commitment. The transgender specialists work closely with the patient to minimize the side effects of the hormone therapy and connect them with specialists who may also be a part of their care program. So, many studies also find that trans people experience financial barriers to accessing hormones due in part to the fact that the trans people are less likely than cisgender people to have health insurance, and many insurance plans do not cover the cost of gender-affirming medical interventions. The use of gender-affirming hormones in a manner that is inconsistent with prescribed dosages can have adverse clinical and health consequences. I'll repeat that again. The use of gender-affirming hormones in a manner that is inconsistent with prescribed dosages can have adverse clinical and health consequences. Research on general medication adherence has shown that many factors influence an individual's decision and ability to follow prescribed treatment plans. Indeed, economic barriers, convenience, and poor communication with prescribing physicians have been shown to influence whether an individual will take a medication as prescribed. So, I'm going to park it right there for a second. In the condition of Elizabeth Hale, it appears that she was not a wealthy individual. She was not well off. Perhaps she could not afford the medication that is required for the hormone therapy sessions. And the side effect of not being consistent with this treatment could be erratic behavior. Now, I'll go even further. The side effects of masculinizing hormones are as follows. One of the more common side effects is an increase in red blood cells called erythrocytosis. This condition can cause headaches, shortness of breath, and nosebleeds. They can also raise your risk of blood clots. So, once that happens, then you find yourself on blood clot preventing medication because the side effects of drugs that prevent blood clots, they cause swelling, pain, feeling very weak or dizzy, bleeding gums, nosebleeds, heavy menstrual periods or abnormal vaginal bleeding, blood in your urine, bloody or tarry stools, coughing up blood, or vomit that looks like coffee grounds, or any bleeding that will not stop. It can cause very serious blood clot around your spinal cord and can lead to long-term or permanent paralysis. So, because this person, as I said earlier, is undergoing this hormone treatment with masculinizing hormones, they run the risk of blood clots. So, of course, they will be prescribed these drugs, like I said, that prevent blood clots with adverse side effects. Now, those are all physical side effects that I just mentioned. So what you need to think about next is the fact that this person who is on this medical journey, this personal journey to change themselves to what they feel is a gender that suits them, is now in a battle with their own body for wellness, okay? What that's going to do to a person psychologically is break down their self-confidence. It's going to destroy their well-being and may lead them down a path which leads to suicidal thoughts and one of self-destruction. Therefore, it is not surprising that a person like Elizabeth Audrey Hale turned to gun violence and lashed out at people who could not defend themselves, small children. So, let's talk about the side effects of testosterone blockers, okay? To suppress testosterone, doctors will often prescribe the diuretic spironolactone. This drug is also used to treat high blood pressure, heart failure, and hirsutism that accompanies polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. It's a blood pressure medication and diuretic that is used as a testosterone blocker. A lot of patients have side effects related to that aspect of it. Frequent urination, electrolyte abnormalities, high potassium levels, which can cause weakness, fatigue, and in very extreme cases, heart attacks, dizziness, lightheadedness, and muscular cramps. One common side effect of suppressing testosterone is sexual dysfunction. This can include low libido, erectile dysfunction, and difficulty climaxing. A 50-something trans woman who had surgery about 30 years ago, in an article in the Washington Post recently, that the surgeon deemed my operation a good outcome, but intercourse never became pleasurable. All right, dude, there's a lot of ground to cover right there.
First things first, we spoke earlier about, and I don't want to use the word opinion, it's been my observation that right now, since gun control is such a big thing for the Democrats, a lot of these shootings, which would have been regional news, are national news. And you can't tell me that they're not pushing an agenda, or they're not saying like, hey, well, we'll give you this story, or we'll give you a little extra money if you do this. Because the example that me and you discussed off the air was, so in LA, when they were having like record numbers of shootings, like literally 700 murders in 1 year, you didn't see that in the national news. You might see a story on 2020 or something, but you didn't see it on your local news station. Or in back in the day, of course, we didn't have these cell phones where you had your news feed. So one of the big things that they're deeming anything a mass shooting, like the situation you just named where the guy got pissed off and shot up a bank. You know, like stuff like that. The only way it would have made national news is if it was particularly gruesome. Like there was one in Oklahoma where the guy showed up with a sword and decapitated somebody. But just the normal shooting wouldn't make the news. It's because right now they want you to take your guns away. And
on some real shit though, you can get away from a guy with a sword though.
That's okay. That's very true. If you don't know what's coming. I mean, if you know what's coming, pardon me. If you see him stab somebody, I'm getting out of Dodge. Or I'm going just the opposite. I'm grabbing a chair, busting him in the head with it. You know, but with that being the case, you know, there was a dude in China that stabbed up a bunch of folks with a sword. When in the grade school, this was about, I don't want to lie, 7 years ago. I think he got like 27 kids, like literally. So that's the whole idea that guns are the only way to hurt somebody. That's not the case. But it is very evident that nobody discusses the side effects of any of these drugs. When you're transitioning, those drugs are hormonal drugs. They will affect your desire to be dominant, to be aggressive, to be all these violent. I remember a friend of mine, his wife, who was an invalid, had on antidepressants, and those antidepressants made her violent. This woman who could barely walk was violent, but nobody talks about that part of the antidepressants, or that many antidepressants make you suicidal. They never want to discuss that. And I remember when we talked about it off the air, you said, yeah, the only way that would happen is if you attacked Big Pharma. And we know that's not happening. I just think that right now that we're being distracted by a lot of these shootings. And I'm not saying people's lives don't matter. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that right now we're on the verge of World War III. They're devaluing the dollar. They're transitioning from the dollar to another currency, possibly. Our friends and allies are now our enemies, who are changing to the Chinese currency. Is it the yuan? They're changing to that currency right now just to buy oil. Japan, who's supposed to be our ally, they're buying oil at $60 a barrel, which is more than what we're offering. But they're like, what? But we're using this new currency. That's what the whole Brexit thing.
What currency is the Japanese using to purchase oil?
They have to buy the Chinese currency to buy oil. Yeah, that's crazy. They're buying the Chinese currency, which is the same thing. And the reason that all black folks are up in arms about when this stuff pops up is literally Hillary Clinton killed Muammar Gaddafi for the same thing. And right now, Russia and China are buying up all the gold. What they're saying is, if this goes through, like it looks like it's about to go through, like it's about to be really big, that literally, gold will triple in value. So right now, gold is what, $1,100, $1,300 for not an ounce. I want to say it right.
It's an ounce. That's the price per ounce.
Per ounce, yeah. So they're saying it's going to hit $3,300, $4,000 an ounce if this keeps going the way it is. So it's crazy, and I'm not saying that these people who are losing their lives in these shootings don't matter. They do matter. But I'm trying to tell you right now, we need guns, because if these guys get bold enough to come after us, because I was it's like one. I forgot the guy's name. He has a YouTube channel, and I was about it. You were discussing this guy transitioning. He was interviewing one of these Army Rangers, Navy SEAL guys, and he talks about like, yeah, I thought about transitioning, but I didn't. He said, yeah, it's because I was expressing myself. He said the strongest person I knew growing up was my sister, and for some reason I got it in my head that I wanted to be her. And he's like, yeah, but he said some of the same stuff that you talk about, these medicines and some of this other stuff they put you on, it fucks you up. It also, these people get in your ear and tell you this is the way to go. But another thing was he has another interview. The guy's name is Bustamante, and he's interviewing the CIA agent. He says that, hey, if China wins this war right now, because China's winning right now. China just brokered the deal between Saudi Arabia and was it Iran or whatever. Also, China is right now brokering a peace deal between the Ukraine and Russia. He said if they win this, then all of a sudden China is going to win the hearts of the world, which people need to understand. This is the reason that China and Russia are buying up all the gold, because you got to remember, China does not take care of their people. So there's no, our money is based on GDP, gross domestic product. But if your people aren't producing, they're not working, you don't have any gross domestic product, do you? But if your currency is based on gold and you're buying up all the gold right now, then all of a sudden, even though your GDP is down, your currency will be worth more money.
Okay.
And that's
all right. Okay. So let's stay on topic because you're going way off on some other shit. No. Yeah, I know it's tied to it, but let's stick to this for a second. Okay. So there's 4 patterns of mass shooters. The first, the vast majority of mass shooters in that. Okay. So the first example is that in studies it's been shown that early childhood trauma and exposure to violence at a young age, the nature of their exposure to violence included parental suicide, physical or sexual abuse, neglect, domestic violence, or severe bullying. The trauma was often The trauma was often a precursor to mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, thought disorders, or suicide. The second, practically every mass shooter has reached an identifiable crisis point in the weeks or months leading up to the shooting. They often have become angry and despondent because of a specific grievance. For workplace shooters, like the guy Sturgeon, like we just mentioned, that shot up people today on April the 10th, for workplace shooters, a change in job status was frequently the trigger. For shooters in other contexts, relationship rejection or loss often played a role. Such crises were in many cases communicated to others through a marked change in behavior, an expression of suicidal thoughts, or plans of specific threats of violence. Third, most shooters had studied the actions of other shooters and sought validation for their motives. People in crisis have always existed, but in the age of 24-hour rolling news and social media, there are scripts to follow that promise notoriety in death.
Yes.
Societal fear, societal fear and fascination with mass shootings partly drives the motivation to commit them. Hence, as we have seen in the last week or in today, shootings tend to come in clusters. They are socially contagious. Perpetrators study other perpetrators and model their acts after previous shootings. Many are radicalized online in their search for validation from others that their will to murder is justified. And the fourth. The fourth. The shooters all had the means to carry out their plans. Once someone decides life is no longer worth living and that murdering others would be a proper revenge, only means and opportunities stand in the way of another mass shooting. Is an appropriate shooting site accessible? Can the would-be shooter obtain firearms? In the 80% of school shootings, perpetrators got their weapons from family members, according to gathered data. Workplace shooters tend to use handguns they legally owned. Other public shooters were more likely to acquire them illegally. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is the idea that passing more gun laws will solve the problem doesn't make sense because you have somebody who's willing to break the law to make their point, whether they're suicidal. So more laws wouldn't fix the situation because it'd be different if you accidentally shot somebody. No, you have to make this decision that I'm going to break the law, whether it's the medication, whatever the situation is. So I think it's really odd that people think that more laws would solve this problem. Also, the shooter in Nashville, I guess, I don't know how they got a hold of the plan, but I guess they had thought about 3 sites. She was thinking of 3 sites, but the reason she picked the school is because it was a soft target, that there was no defense there. There was nobody defending it, which nobody wants to have this conversation, but we need armed guards at our schools so people don't think they're soft targets. And the other thing that many of these liberals are saying, which was online, like, we need complete gun control. We don't need guns accessible, yada, yada, yada. But I say, look at history and look at the societies where you don't have guns accessible and people still take advantage of them. And I talk about the black community. It's hard for a black person to get a gun. And for years, the first gun laws in this country, 1500s, Bacon Rebellion, were for black people. And we've had a society without guns where you couldn't have a gun or, like I said, I know this young lady whose son committed a crime involving a gun, got 25 years. Having a gun in the black community for a very long time was damn near impossible. And you see what happens when you're not armed. You have Klansmen, you got terrorism, you got rampant police breaking in your homes, issuing the wrong warrants. You don't see cops going to the wrong home too many times. When they got a white warrant, they usually know exactly where to go. But in the black part of town or Mexican part of town, they go to the wrong house a lot. That's because they know that
because
person ain't
life
armed.
is cheap over there.
Yes, yes, expendable. Yes, my brother. All we're saying is that nobody looks at the real numbers when it comes to this gun control stuff and how it really affects people. And yes, mass shooters are wrong, but whenever you see this good guy with a gun narrative, like that brother at the mall, the white dude at the mall on the food court, and he shot it was 30 yards. He hit this dude 3 or 4 times 30 yards away. And people are like, yeah, well, that was luck. That's not luck when you get somebody that many times. But it's the fact that these people are going for soft targets. Very rarely do you see them attack military targets. I remember, again, in Tennessee, where this guy had attacked a Navy recruiter. And then he was going to the next one. Before he went to the next one, they called hey, be on the lookout. This guy just shot up.
But this is the deal. Okay, so you're identifying part of the problem. You're not speaking about the whole problem.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll elaborate. So you're speaking about this as if these people had complete control over their actions and they were acting alone and they were not being influenced by anything.
Yeah, of course.
So,
that's not.
hold on. Because if let's get real Cobra with this shit. Mm-hmm. If you want to cause terror, then you're going to go and hit soft targets. You're not going to cause terror by going and attacking an armed position.
Nope.
You're not going to. Listen, man, if you got a real suicide death wish, then get 2 machine guns under each arm and just walk into a police station and start shooting. You're going to get some smoke. You know what I mean?
You ain't going to make it.
Yeah, dude, listen, it's not going to be like the first Terminator movie like you think it's going to be. So, which leads me to this. That means these people are either cowardly.
Yes.
Or they are being driven by a subliminal message that leads them to soft targets to get an outrage from the public, hoping to scare them away from guns.
Look, I'll give an example. Again, and this was in Dallas. You remember when that cop shot that dude by accident, and they hugged the judge and all this other bullshit. Black folks with that old bullshit.
Yeah, I know that coon
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. But you remember about a year and a half, 2 years before that, a dude went on a rampage
And he got killed by a fucking robot.
Yes, but he went after them folks. He put bombs on squad cars. He went after the Dallas police station.
Listen, he was out for war.
Now, like I said, I don't have the article in front of me, but to my knowledge, he was a vet. These cops killed a kid.
If you want like a lesson on how to take it to him, that dude was taking it to him.
Yeah, yes, he was winning. But the whole thing is, but my point being is, how come that doesn't make national news? Like you saw a blurb about a blip in national news in Dallas, man shoots up police onto because they don't want to show you attacking the establishment, showing that you can win versus the establishment.
That's it.
In fact,
that's exactly right.
One of the issues I had, I don't really watch The View, but I know that's the one with Whoopi, and then that bar lady. So she said some racist shit, and we talked about it last time, where she said, if you want to do gun control, give every black man a gun. That's right, and we would have gun control the next day.
Right.
I get it, you're racist, but the point is, she was saying that that having these little few guns in our possession doesn't give us the power to go up against the government. That's not true. We've seen, in fact, our whole country was based on going against the government with small arms. Vietnam, they held off. Afghanistan held off Russia with small arms. The whole idea that you need a tank and all this other stuff, that's just showing that you don't want to fight. You're looking for excuses not to fight. And so the point I'm making when it comes to that, they don't ever show you those stories where people, like I heard in Memphis, they're shooting cops. I heard in Chicago, they were shooting cops at one. How come that didn't make national news? Because they don't want to give, ideas.
Or the fact that there might have been some dirty cops that was getting done.
They might have earned. See, if you earn an ass whooping, Roscoe, if you earn an ass whooping, who am I to deny you? You know what I'm saying? If you're doing some dirty shit, that one cop in Oklahoma that raped all them people, all them women, they're really trying to change the narrative on that one. They're saying, like, if he raped 1 out of 100, it don't fucking matter. He's a cop. It should never have happened, and he knew who to pick. But all because of one of these ladies, wasn't very educated.
That same thing happened here in Atlanta, where there was a woman that had been raped by a cop twice. Nobody believed her until she got an advocate to fight for her and prove it with evidence. She went to the police station and reported it twice. Each time after it happened, they didn't believe her because they thought she's a crazy woman and he's a cop. They're going to take his word. They're going to side with him. Back to blue. All that's retarded shit.
But that's true. Like, just because you're crazy doesn't mean that it didn't happen to you. So, there's two things that nobody wants to deny. Half the time, these people are crazy because it's happened in the past. They could be picking the wrong person, or they don't know how to express themselves properly. And people know how to pick a crazy person because they know that person is already discredited. That cop picked that woman because he knew nobody would believe her. Luckily, she found somebody to advocate for her. But all I'm simply saying, when it comes to this gun stuff, these stories are coming hot and fast. And these stories, my question was, under Trump, who was the biggest dickhead in the world, I get it, you would think there would be more mass shootings under him because he's so pro-gun and all this other stuff. But instead, we have Democrats in office, and there's more mass shootings now. Is that by design? You know what I'm saying? To push this agenda, or is it being reported more? However you want to look at it. But the bottom line is, you would think under that guy, we would have more of these problems. Don't you agree? A person who, and then he's the one who made more gun laws, banning bump fire stocks, banning this, banning that. It wasn't the Dems. Now, lately they've been trying to ban stuff like that pistol brace. That's the dumbest shit ever, and we'll discuss that in another podcast. But what we're trying to show you is that right now you're being spoon-fed a narrative, and people are start believing it. And the thing is, like, when you deal with certain people, I'm not saying women, I'm not saying just liberals, but when people sit here and say, there's no reason to have an AR, that's it, and won't have a discussion about it. The reason to have an AR is to protect yourself. The reason to have an AR is to make sure that you are equal to the bad guys. Like I said, when you look at a black community who were not allowed to have weapons, and you look at the racism, and you look at the terrorism that was wrought on them. You look at the Klan, you look at these evil cops, you look at all this shit that happened that was put to Native Americans and other ones who were not allowed to have guns, or they were given shitty guns. That Look at that, and then you see what happened to them. They all had their land taken. They were all lynched and terrorized. That's because they weren't allowed to have weapons. And when you're not allowed to have weapons, the bad guys will have a weapon, and then your oppressor will have a weapon, and you don't. That marching shit don't work. You know, that only works when you're dealing with somebody.
Stop. Again, we're missing subtext here. We're missing the real story. Because you just mentioned groups that were marginalized by the United States government. There were never any mass shooters to come out of those communities in regard to being marginalized by the government. Why is that? Why is it nobody ever took up arms like, you know what, I'm going to shoot these crackers up, I'm going to kill these motherfuckers, you know, uhuru, you know what I mean? Like, yo.
And many of them did. They just didn't make the news. They kept that shit down. What's it, Shakur, Tupac's stepfather. Mm-hmm. Them motherfuckers was shooting up cops all the time.
No. You're not hearing what I'm saying. There were no mass shootings where these guys would walk into a grocery store and start killing people. Nobody was doing that. They weren't terrorizing people. They were going against the oppressor.
This is by design. Yeah.
These were pitched battles against the oppressor. So this was extreme prejudice with intent. And so I'm going after the person who has oppressed me. It is not I'm going to go shoot little kids. It is not I'm going to go shoot harmless people who are unarmed. No. These guys were going to go shoot at other men with guns. That's guerrilla warfare. That's combat. Listen to me, man. What I'm telling you is that what you are seeing is an intentional subsonic psychic push to make people go and shoot up innocent people to get a reaction to scare people away from guns. It's a Pavlovian reflex.
Yes.
They want you to be like that dog that they've trained to salivate every time it hears a bell.
Yep. But that's what they're doing with these news stories. Look, what's the biggest thing driving the world right now? Social media, TikTok, likes, looks. How do you get those? By shooting somebody, because you're going to be all over the news. Now, all of a sudden...
Okay, but listen. What is driving that? What's driving that is the dopamine gold rush. That's what we need to call this fucking show, the dopamine gold rush. Because if you get the dopamine rush looking at the screen, that ooh, ah, chocolate and cheese, ooh, ah, that feeling, those nerve centers in the brain that you get from eating chocolate and cheese, but you get that same feeling from social media posts that give you a boner or make you interested or pique your interest about something technological. These things are being pushed at you. So then, therefore, if we can find a way to not arouse you, but to, on the flip side of that coin, push fear on you, because we've perfected this in the Nazi concentration camps, then let's do that, and let's use that encoded in a wave form that's in the picture. Dude, why do you think that TikTok is so important right now? Because everybody is watching TV, but they're only watching it for 10 seconds at a time. Everybody is watching TV for 10 to 30 seconds at a time on their phones. They have stopped running home to watch Game of Thrones or Lost or Fringe or The Wire or whatever else that was on broadcast television, and now it's being broadcast through their phones. Oh, man.
Personal broadcast.
Did you see, hey, man, did you see the Mayweather Paul fight? No, but I saw the knockout. You want to watch it? Yeah, let's watch it. It's only 3 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Dude, how many people don't watch a full UFC fight, but instead they watch the highlights?
Hey, we see the same thing in music. You don't see people doing whole albums anymore. They'll do 3 or 4 songs in 6 years.
Because the short attention span has
Yep.
been crafted. That has been crafted. It's not by accident everybody has short attention spans now. No, it has been crafted to be as such. That's what I'm getting at. The fact that we are like a plant that has been grafted to grow like a bonsai. But we weren't meant to grow like a bonsai.
We're meant to be like a mighty oak. We should be growing and evolving.
Right, but instead you a tiny ass tree in a tray on somebody's desk. Look at my experiment. Look at it.
But also like that's why TV. That's why it's called programming. When you watch a TV show or regularly scheduled programming, because they're programming you. This is to program you to think that shooting up a school is cool. That will get you the attention that you weren't getting before. What about the whole boy Dylan Roof at the church?
Okay, wait a minute. On Wednesday, June 17th, 2015, at around 9:05 p.m. at Emmanuel AME Church, during Bible study, a mass shooter took the lives of 9 African American people. That shooter was Daniel Booth, who was prescribed the psychiatric medication Suboxone. Suboxone is a medicine to treat opiate dependence, but it has negative side effects. So then you see now that somebody who was on opiates is having side effects from taking this pharmaceutical because they're addicted to pain pills.
Also, don't forget the girl that he liked started dating a mixed kid. So they said he was mad at all black people. He started hitting up the damn skinhead websites and all that bullshit. Look, the medication lowers your inhibition. It makes it harder for you to be rational. I agree with all that.
Hold on a second. Let's talk about this guy. Anderson Lee Aldrich, 22-year-old. He entered a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs, Colorado on November 20th, 2022, last year, shooting and killing 5 people and injuring 25 others. Aldrich identifies as non-binary and uses they/them pronouns and should be addressed with the gender-neutral honorific MX. Dude. So,
hold it. The deep thing you said last week when you said, how come the LBGT community are not being labeled as terrorists? Like I said, that's a prime example of one of these LBGTQ community doing something. But all I know is when Black Lives Matter started, which I don't agree with the organization, but I do agree with the concept, they became a terrorist organization overnight. But now you have a shooting in Tennessee, which was by a trans person transitioning, and it was on purpose. There's already stuff going out that they're going to start attacking Christian schools. I didn't realize that was a Christian school until you told me. I'm like, oh, I guess it's real. So how come the LBGTQ community is not being labeled as terrorist organizations? Because that's what they do for anybody else. So if you start wearing a rainbow, how come people aren't? Because this is part of the agenda. The agenda is to push this on us. The agenda is to take guns from law-abiding citizens. But it's not about taking guns from...
But I want to go back to the Social Opiate Show, The Fields, the episode The Fields, because in there I quoted an article from July 17, 2014. This article says that the Air Force research states that they have created a way to use social media to control people like drones. That, coupled with the fact that you have a person who's completely fragile, a brittle spirit, as Chappelle says, being basically manipulated by social media, guided.
Yep.
And then that person is going. Listen, you add that on top of the fact that a person is transitioning and they're a poor person, so that poor person doesn't have the money to complete the hormone treatment properly, right? So then they're having all types of side effects because they're not following the schedule of pharmaceuticals they were given, or if they are following those to their best of their ability, there's side effects that's causing them to break down. So then they're seeing all this stuff on social media, which is controlling them like a drone, right? And so they lash out. But what happens is right before they're about to burst, right before they have this orgasm of depression, that's when they're ripe for the manipulation, and that's when the MK Ultra signals go to work on their subconscious.
Look, like I said, this programming, because that's what it is showing you over and over that shooting these soft targets. And again, you had guys shoot at them too. Remember that nightclub in Florida where the guy went in there shooting? Even the one you talked about in Colorado, I think the owner and some other guy wrestled him down and took the gun from him and beat the shit out of him. These are weak-minded people, but they're also physically weak people. They need guns. That's the crazy part. And you wouldn't dare make a law saying somebody who's trans can't have a gun, but you sure make a law saying a black man can't have a gun. I'm like, why don't you make a law saying the LGBTQ can't have guns? Because they're liberal anyway. They don't give a damn. Why don't you stick it out there? You would never say that, but you would say it about a black person. You pass laws in black communities about shit like that. So I'm like, yeah, they are they're becoming a terrorist organization. They're becoming radicalized, and I don't know if it's because of the medication or if it's the programming, but it's definitely something that needs to be explored.
Dude, the crazy part about all this is that, you can go on and on and on, some more, complaining about, they're going after guns, but until you call out Big Pharma, until you call out social manipulation, until you call out the fact that these people that are undergoing these treatments may be emotionally unstable to begin with, nobody wants to talk about that. The fact that, okay, maybe the fact that a person wants to transition their gender may be an underlying psychiatric disorder that borders on multiple split personalities, schizophrenia.
Yes, that's deep. Like literally. Or sometimes they're asking for help. Literally, when you deal with, I love black women, but a lot of times they lash out when I ask for help. They don't know how to ask. But if you decide to transition, and now all of a sudden you're popular, people are concerned about your well-being, you're able to get the aid why would you not transition?
Dude, listen. Sidebar story real quick. I was in a ride share the other day, and it was a black woman driver, and she shared some insight with me, and she said, I asked her how she was doing, and all this stuff, and we started chatting, and she was like, some people don't even speak. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, when they get into the car, I say hello, and they don't speak, and they just sit there like a robot the entire time. I'm like, that's weird. Like, you just entered another person's space, but you're not saying anything. And I'm going two different places with this story, so just stay with me. So the first is this disconnected nature that everybody has tiptoed toward because they're connected to their devices and they're suckling from the digital teat. And so it's caused people to become more cold. So what I'm seeing is that people are more easily manipulated. What do I mean? The fact that social media is manipulating how you feel, it's cut off your humanity. And so you've taken regular human interaction for granted.
What about the violence? What about watching these violent videos? I laugh too.
Hold on a second. Have you lost your manners? And I'm going somewhere with this. Do you treat old people any different now than you used
Oh
to?
no, I hope I treat them better. I talk to them more because I understand that that's my destination. If I'm blessed, no, I try to treat them better. I have more patience now. But
Okay, but
I,
listen. This is the other place I want to go with this. What she told me also is that black women always get into her car with an attitude. And I'm like, nah, that ain't true. She's like, yes. She's
every
like,
time.
black women always get into her car with attitude. And I asked her, I'm like, why do you think that is? She says, I don't know, maybe they're jealous. I'm like, jealous of what? She's like, I don't know, maybe because I'm driving and they're not. And I'm like, that's petty as shit.
But that doesn't mean it's not true though. Petty is the new black. Like let me give you an example. Growing up, we used to watch TV programs where you had these snobby rich white people looking down on everybody. But now that you have these service industries and you got people who are traveling now who didn't used to travel, all of a sudden they feel like they're rich or something. I don't have time to talk to the driver.
See, man,
I'm
like,
like,
bruh, I've worked in all these different industries.
yeah,
And, I mean, I started working when I was 10. So I've always been working with my hands and shit. And so, if anything, when I come across people in these service industries, I'm looking to connect with them instead of isolate myself from them, unless I get some shithead vibe.
yeah.
Like if I get a shithead vibe, then I kick rocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I went into a bookstore today, and this lady that I went in there looking for a book. And I don't know why they have her working in customer service, because she had icy, like Eurasian vibes. You know what I'm saying? She's basically like a Russian chick, older, like 60-year-old Russian woman, and she was just like super fucking dry and super sarcastic. And I asked her just a simple fucking question. And I said to her, I needn't trip. I didn't trip. I didn't get hood on her at all or nothing. I was just like, you know what? You're not the right person for me to talk to, because you don't know enough about this. So how about you get me somebody who knows more about this? The manager was right there. He was like, I can help you. But he realized that they're just tolerating this chick for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, dude, she was like basically a lizard. Just a fucking lizard. I'm like, you shouldn't be working this job. I don't know why, or like that old whatever like mail order bride you used to be. That you ain't hot no more. That shit ain't working. But this ain't cute.
Look, don't call her a reptilian, but I'm gonna give an
Nah,
example.
fuck her. She's a reptilian. She's a
Here's
reptilian booty scratcher.
Here's an example of what you're talking about. That your driver was talking about. So I've dated many black chicks. I'm dating this chick. She's actually Puerto Rican, but she's adopted, blah, 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 blah. So I'm dating her, and we're at a store. There's an Eastern European woman who's working there. And she keeps trying to, and the chick I'm with, she keeps trying on these clothes. And she was complaining about the size and this, that, and the other. And the woman goes, it doesn't fit. Go over there. She was pissed. She was like, that's so rude. I'm like, well, that's not rude. It's an observation. I'm seeing the same thing. I'm glad she said it, because now I don't have to deal with you, because I'm going to try to get some later. But she was so mad at it. How's that woman rude? She's looking at you, trying something on that's way too small. And it doesn't matter how you pull it or, what you do to it. You're not going to make more fat come out. It won't grow. So she simply said that wasn't your size, and you got offended, but you're saying she's rude.
Right, but see, my fucking judo was I did to her what that chick tried to do to me.
She was attempting to get. Yep.
And I was like, oh, you're not the right person. I need the right person. How about you go get me the right person and be of some use to me? Because I'm in here to buy. I came in here to buy something. And the whole point of this store is to sell stuff. So you're impeding that process. So go get somebody that can help me.
You fucking up the capitalism, bitch. Get out the way.
Yeah. Look. So go back to your fucking Eastern Bloc, former communist ass country where motherfuckers aren't concerned with fucking capitalism and kick rocks. But look, we're getting too far off. The whole point of what we're talking about is that there are these mass shooters out there that are now going after people who are not armed. Now, this guy who shot up the bank today, there had to be armed guards in there.
I was about to go there, bro. Yes. That was not a soft target.
So I'm like, all right.
That's personal.
What if there was armed guards in there, did those dudes get some shots off? Did they fucking plug this guy? What the fuck happened here? I'm trying to figure out what the dudes with guns did.
Or they recognized him and like, hey, what's up, Charlie? And, he coerced them, you know what I'm saying? Put them at ease.
Yeah, well, he probably planned to do that so he could take them out to get to. But then the crazy part about it is I looked at the names of the people that got killed, and it looks like they were all executives. So he was making dome calls for motherfuckers that were like in charge of making the decision to fire his ass.
Well, I know this. They won't be laying off motherfuckers no more, huh? Shit.
Right. Right.
Look, this sounds so bad, and I please, I'm not a heartless person, but I just know back in the day, you had a lot more assassination attempts back in the day.
Yeah.
See, now they use the term, but if a politician passed a law that was unfair, he or she caught some lead. Reagan got shot at twice.
Right, but think about this, though. They don't even have to assassinate you anymore physically. They can just assassinate your character.
They can cancel you.
They will find a way to call you a MAPS person, minor attracted person, or somebody that is, has over excessive sexual appetite, or somebody who is a thief. They'll drag your reputation through the mud, and the fact that you have to live through that, they feel is punishment enough. Unless you do something that is so egregious to the deep state, they gotta off your ass. Like Epstein. They're like, you making a mess. We gotta get rid of you.
Like I said, but we let your handler live. Your girl lived.
Of course, because she was the one that was running the show.
She was a mastermind.
The submarine pilot.
The daughter of the Mossad. So, look, always telling you guys is that these spree shooters, which I think the definition of spree shooters now, like three people shot. It used to be like 8. They lowered it. So, which I'm not trying to be heartless. I'm just simply saying that all of a sudden, it's like a serial killer. Remember, a serial killer had to kill like 10 people. Now it's like, you killed 4 people. You're a serial killer. I graduated. Like, literally, they're changing these terms. And like I said, I'm not trying to be a heartless person, but this spree shooter shit, a lot of this shit was local news just a year or 2 ago. Now it's national news because they want to push that narrative. They're creating a narrative. And if you even talk about guns, all of a sudden you're crazy. You're a sick individual.
No. When if Black lives fucking matter, when all these brothers were dying in Chicago, when all these brothers was dying in LA, when all these brothers was dying in these cities with black populations, if they really gave a shit, they would be pushing for gun control back then. I mean, yeah, you had the Brady Bill back in the day, back when gangs were like at their heyday and in their prime and shit. But that has nothing to do with gangs back then. That guy that got like paralyzed, Brady, that had nothing to do with gang violence. So it had nothing to do with black people. So once again, it proves my point that when black people are dying, it don't fucking matter. But when white people start getting shot, now we gotta shut this thing down. These guns are terrible.
But see, that's the crazy part because you know this to be true. We've been friends for years. We're brothers. But during the Brady Bill, that's when they had an assault rifle ban. But I bought an assault shotgun, and that's when I realized these laws are stupid. And I've talked about this like the third time I talked about this on the podcast, so I don't want to rehash stuff. But I bought a semi-auto shotgun that was based on the AK platform. That's Sega, and I'm telling you, that's the most devastating gun I've ever seen. So that's when I realized, like, okay, you remember what's his name? Oh boy, it was Willie Otay. It was this guy in Nebraska who got the death penalty. He shot up a club with a double barrel shotgun, but he hit like 15, 16 people. That's because the shotgun. Shotgun is the most devastating thing out there.
It sprays. It sprays when it shoots.
Yeah, yeah. And depending on how the size of the projectile, I'm like, yeah, that's some serious shit. So that let me know that these bills and these laws are more about your emotional impact than actual safety of the people around them. And when I purchased that gun, somebody broke into my house and stole it. But yeah, when I got that, and you remember shooting it the first time we shot it, you were like, I'm like, yeah, man. Everybody in that shooting range came to us.
There was a guy with a 357 Magnum who stopped shooting it and came over there and looked at what we were shooting.
So I'm telling you, when you hear these laws and these bills, a lot of this stuff is for emotional impact. It's not for reality. It's not for what's going to really help you. But the main thing is to get the guns out of everybody's hands. That's the wrongest thing, because these law-abiding citizens are doing everything right to have the weapons, and these bad guys are doing everything wrong. That is a bad guy who went to shoot up that school. They knew they were breaking the law. Now you pass a pistol brace law where I can't have a pistol brace, so I'm accidentally breaking the law. I bought that. I should be grandfathered. I bought that before. But so, like I said, you're literally trying to get law-abiding citizens arrested. You don't care about the bad guys. You don't care about real lives. You only care about your narrative, your agenda. You only care about that. You don't care about how who knows, in the next couple of years we might have a foreign person coming up to our crib. This is serious right now. This is the most serious thing going, and people don't understand that.
Yeah. Listen, man, guns are important. The whole gun discussion is important in this country because it's more important than people realize. Because really, the right to bear arms is just as important, if not more important, than freedom of speech.
How do you have freedom of speech?
Hold on a second. Let's think about this for a second, because I'm not just going to say this and just let that just fly out there and be flippant about it. Look at countries that don't have freedom of speech, but the households have a machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan. The people in Afghanistan that were standing up to fight or protect themselves did so because they had weapons. They couldn't say what they want to say, but they could put some lead in your monkey ass if they had to. At the end of the day, because at the end of the day, all that talking, that bullshit runs a marathon. You understand? Listen, freedom of speech is important. Do not get me wrong. Don't twist what I'm saying. But in my opinion, it's more important. It's the last result is protecting you and your family. Because if somebody runs up in the crib, dog, I'm not talking to him.
I'm not negotiating.
I'm not talking.
No, I'm not lip wrapping.
You are an invader.
Look, I'm saying it like this, but that's what nobody gets. Cops they need warrants. A cop will give you a fake ass warrant and come in there and make up some shit about you. But if you got a gun, I say, hey man, you ain't coming in here.
Yep.
It changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.
The crazy thing, man, like about 10 years ago, there was a black woman, old lady, must have been like 82 years old. She was sitting in her living room in a rocking chair watching TV. The cops burst into the house with a no-knock warrant, had the wrong fucking house.
So the wrong fucking house.
And murdered her. Murdered this old lady. She didn't have no weapons. She ain't have nothing. She was sitting there watching TV. And they fucking murdered her, dude. Now, if that black woman had had a fucking gun, a shotgun on her lap, she would have took them motherfuckers with her.
Or they would have refocused. Like, we're the wrong house. Sorry, ma'am. Because that gun is what saves you. That's what makes them think different.
Yep. Of course, man, because you're like, oh shit, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Everybody be cool. Yeah, you be cool, motherfucker. You coming up in here with that bullshit. Listen, man, you not running up on people with guns. Just like these mass shooters are not attacking hard targets. Period. They're running in there where there's people that are soft targets who can't fucking defend themselves. That's what the fuck is going on. That's what this episode is about. Straight up and down. Like that's it. That's all it's about, is that the programming that's causing these mass shooters to go and kill unarmed people is meant to get you on edge, number one, and two, dividing the citizenry of this country. That's what it's doing. It's being done on purpose to divide us. And until you see it as that, it works perfectly. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.